ओंकारमन्त्रसंयुक्तं नित्यं ध्यायन्ति योगिनः कामदं मोक्षदं तस्मै ओंकाराय नमो नमः। नमस्सर्वेभ्यः स्वागतम्। अस्याम् आवल्यां सन्धिविषयः चर्च्यते। This series will be regarding the sandhis. First of all, in this series we have three parts. First one being the swara sandhi, visarga sandhi, and then the vyanjana sandhi. Now sandhi is an important subject in Sanskritam. It goes along with the pair, the duo sandhi samasa in most of the Indian languages. Sandhi samasa is a wonderful duo that any language would require to form new words. So while forming new words, two things mattered. First of all, the ability of a language is determined, the ability of the language to create new words is determined of whether it has sufficient grammatical rules which enable that, which is samasa and sandhi. Sandhi, however, deals with only change in the varna. What is a varna? So we have an entire series of 13 videos. You can watch that in our playlist. So when two varnas are beside each other, any two varnas are beside each other, and by the nature of those two varnas which are joining, a sandhi can happen. So a sandhi, so sandhi nama kim? What is a sandhi? It is sandhi varnanam vikaraha yogaha parivartanancha, the modification of a varna, combination of a varna to form something else, and parivartanam, to change entirely, is sandhi. Sandhi bhavati. When does sandhi happen? Yada dvau varnau staha. Dvau varnau staha, when there are two varnas beside each other, atyantam naikatye, very close in utmost proximity, then sandhi can happen. So it does not mean that sandhi can happen between one varna which is at the beginning of a sentence and another varna which is at the end. Only when they are beside each other can sandhi happen. Now, this sandhi is a concept which is peculiar to Sanskritam and probably also could have originated in Sanskritam. And the classification of sandhis is very logical, as everything is in Sanskritam. And also, it could dissuade the beginners from learning Sanskritam also because of its complexity. However, the complexity generally is because of the way it is taught and because it is made to by heart, which the students would generally not have a taste to, have a liking to. And so, in this series, we would like to concentrate more upon the understanding the logic behind the sandhis, as well as an important set of formulae which can be used and referenced easily to make your own sandhis when there are any two given words. So now that will be the agenda for this series. This series has, as I have said, three parts: the visarga, swara, and the vyanjana sandhi parts. But we will be making short videos so that you can come back to each of the sandhis as and when you find time. Now, there are two types of sandhis which can be classified otherwise also, that is based on where it happens. Sandhis can happen within a word, and that is called an internal sandhi. And it can also happen externally, which means outside a word, which means it is between two words. That will be the external sandhis. And in this series, we will be concentrating mostly on the external sandhis, but some of these can also be applied internally. So internal sandhis require a little more profound understanding of the Paniniya Sutras, the Ashtadhyayi Sutras, as well as the other commentaries which come along with it. But for external sandhis, which is quite simple and which is most popular in Sanskritam and in other languages as well, there are these three classifications of Swara, Vyanjana and the Visarga sandhis. Now, under the broad concept of sandhis, there are many other functions which can be associated with them. For example, I will just show you here. Now you see here the bhash, bhava, natva, shatva, dhut, num agama, mugagama, sudagama, iyang, uvang agama, etc. All of these are also similar cousins of the sandhi, and they relate. They are our brothers and sisters of the internal sandhis which happen. They may not directly relate to the external sandhis, but the way that sandhis go about making some changes within varnas within a word is what these sisters also do. Now, this sandhi study is can be studied both in a simple way as well as in a profound, involved way. So in the latter study, we will have a lot of complications, exceptions, and exceptions to the rules, and exceptions to the exceptional rules also, and such special cases. All of that will crop up. But in this series, we shall not be discussing any of that. We'll try to keep it as simple as possible and palatable to every viewer. And these rules of sandhis, where are they applied? They are applied throughout Samskrita literature. Samskrita literature is just reeks of sandhis. Every kavya and every shloka also has many sandhis within them, which require, and they seem to be encrypted, which require, so this study of sandhis will be a fundamental elementary study which will help us to understand those shlokas and those mantras better, because the first step to understand a mantra is to know its words, and the first step to know its words is to split the words and see them separately and look at them properly, give them separate attention. To do that, we have to know how the words separate, and to know how the words separate, we should know the changes that have happened within those two words when they have combined, and so we have to know the mechanism to split it also. It's like the chakra vyuha. So not just one way, we should also know how to split the words as well as combine them. Why do we need to combine them? When we want to sound very scholarly and to embellish our own language, we need to use the sandhis to combine them and to seem very knowledgeable. But to understand a text, we will need to know how to use a sandhi to split two words. What is a sandhi? Sandhi happens when there are two varnas beside each other in close proximity and they undergo a certain change. And what certain change happens there? What is that certain change that is happening there? That is to be decided by the Paniniya Sutras. So wherever a sandhi is ordained to apply, is ordained to be present, only in such a domain should sandhis be applied. So that is, everything boils down to the sutras. So what Panini commands, he is the lord of Samskrita grammar. So whatever he commands should be executed. And transgression would lead to a Paninian grammar, Now, under this broad view of sandhi, there are four basic functions, which is adesha. Adesha is to replace. Adesha is to kick one person out and come and sit in his place. That is adesha. So if in the place of X, Y comes and sits and X disappears, X leaves, that is called an adesha. What is an agama? With X being in its place, along with it, if Y also comes and sits beside him, that is called an agama. So X does not disappear, but just the existence of Y is seen. So Y comes into existence. So that is Agama. Agama is to come. Lopaha is to disappear entirely. So X was there. Neither did Y come and kick it out, nor did just Y come and sit along with him, but X disappeared on its own. That is called a Lopa. Prakriti Bhavaha. Prakriti Bhava is X remains as it is. Even if Y comes, even if Z comes, whatever happens, whatever the other three functions may do so, may operate, but in Prakriti Bhava, X will remain as it is. That is called Prakriti Bhava. Being in its own natural state is called Prakriti Bhava. And there are a few more terminologies that we want to see in the broad category of Sandhi. One, the most simple thing is the Purva and the Para. Purva is the first Varna. Now, see, we said Sandhi happens only when two Varnas come together. So the first Varna, which is when we're reading it from the left to right, the left one is called the Purva. The formal letter is called the Purva. And the Para will be the second letter. So 1 and 2, and the first letter is called Purva, second letter is called Para. So if in the Sandhi happens between X and Y, X will be called the Purva, Y will be called the Para. And to denote Purva, I have used the symbol V, the acronym V for Purva, and Para will be R in this series. Now, what is this Parinama? Parinama is a result of a Sandhi, which means when X and Y come together, when you add salt to water, it dissolves. That dissolution is called the Parinama, the effect. That is, so when X and Y comes, if they mingle together and Z crops up, this cropping up of Z is called the Parinama. And this Z can happen in place of X or in place of Y. That is the Purva or the Para. Why is all this so abstract? Now this is just the abstract definitions, that's why. So we shall see with examples, with a lot of examples. That will be, you might probably get frustrated with so much of examples coming up. But a clear understanding is what I promise after this series. Now, where should Sandhi be applied? Now, we have seen that when two Varnas come together, Sandhi is applied. But is it so? Should we apply Sandhi at every place wherever these two Varnas combine? That is not so. We shall see where Sandhi applies generally. Now, here is a Karika, which means a hint, a shloka to concisely say where Sandhi is generally applied. Samhitaika pade nitya. नित्या धातुपसर्गयोः नित्या समासे वाक्ये तु सा विवक्षाम अपेक्षते. संहिता एकपदे नित्या. Within a word, within the same word, samhita. Samhita here is also another synonym for sandhi. Sandhi is nitya. Nitya is it should be done everywhere. It is eternal. Eternal in the sense of a sandhi should be applied within a word wherever it is ordained. So within a word, if there is a command, if there's a commandment from Panini saying such a sandhi should be done, and if you do not do that, that will be a transgression and you will be punished by the scholars. So within a pada, eka pade nitya. Nitya dhatu upasargayoho. Wherever a prefix or a suffix also in this case. Upasarga is the prefixes, the prapara, apasamanvada, the 22 prefixes. When it comes along with the dhatu, a certain sandhi should be done. And you can't put the prefixes separately and refrain from doing a sandhi. That is called nitya dhatu upasargayoho. I would also say that when dhatu pratyaya also comes, dhatu pratyayoho api nitya. When a pratyaya joins with a dhatu, the suffix is joining with a dhatu, there too sandhi should be applied. Nitya samase vakyetu. Nitya samase. In a compound word. Samasa, whenever you do a samasa, there also sandhi should be applied within those two words. For example, Gana and Isha. Ganasya Isha is the Vigraha Vakyam. Now, what is this Vigraha Vakyam? All of that will be discussed in the Samasa. Just to give an example, Gana Isha. Now, these are two words, and when they combine, it becomes Ganesha. A and E turn to A. That is the Adesha. Now, the Adesha function of Sandhi. So, it should be done. Nitya Samase. It is ordained by Panini that a Sandhi within two words, if they are compounded, should be done. Vakyetu, but in a sentence, sa vivaksham apekshate, sa samhita. Now that saha sandhi, vakye vivaksham apekshate. It depends on the will of the user. Vivaksha is the desire to speak. If the speaker desires to do sandhi, he can do that. Apekshate. It is dependent on the speaker, the orator. It is not compulsory. So this is what we understood of where to apply sandhi and where not to, or where it is a vikalpa. Vikalpa meaning it's an option, it is a choice. So that is what is explained here. Within a word, or between a dhatu and a pratyaya or an upasarga, sandhi should be done. But in a sentence, to flaunt your sandhi skills, you could do the sandhis. Now also in Vedas and the other shlokas like Bhagavad Gita, Lalita Sahasranama and such mantric texts meaning those texts which is believed to have certain vibrations of sound, which depends on the traditional, the agama and the nigama. Agama is that which has come down through tradition, that is through the orthodox schools of thought. Then the agama and the nigama. Nigama is the Veda, the Vedas, which also have sandhis within them. And just because here this Karika says that within a sentence you could use it or not, doesn't mean that we split all the sandhis within a Vakya of the Vedas or the Bhagavad Gita or a Shloka and say them separately. Although there's nothing wrong in that, I would suggest that you use these Vakyas which are there in the as Shlokas or as the Vedic mantras. They should be used as is brought down by the parampara, as is brought down by tradition. If they have done sandhi at a certain place, then you should also, while you are pronouncing those shlokas or those sentences, also do the sandhi and pronounce it as it is. Now the sandhi, we have seen that it has a lot of cousins along with them. This bhash, bhava, natva, shatva, all of that. Now in the sandhis, we need to see the distinction between a sandhi and a samasa. The sandhi happens when there are two varnas, the two letters beside each other, but a samasa happens when there are two entire namapada, when there are two entire words beside each other. A samasa should happen. Sarvada vyaptihi asti. Now sandhi can happen everywhere and anywhere that it is said to happen. That is, for example, within a word, if it is said to happen, then it happens within a word every time. Each time there is a sandhi, a chance of sandhi within a word, it will happen. But samasa is not like that. A samasa happens not only when it is ordained to do so, but also only when two words are related to each other. What does that mean? For example, if you have two words which have no correlation or any sort of relation, causation between them, let's say Varta, news, and then I won't say newspaper because they have a certain relation, but I'll say news and then I will say school, Shala. Varta and Shala. Now, just because they are two Namapada, you cannot combine them to say Varta Shala unless they have any specific meaning to them. So this Arthavat Samasaha, the concept of that having a samasa depends on what the user's intent is and what he wants to convey his meaning, on that meaning, and depending on the sutras which allow him to use such and such compound words, a compound can be formed. But that is not the case with sandhi. Sandhi has a lot more freedom. Padasya arthaha bahuda navashyakaha. Now that is what. So when there are two letters combining, it doesn't, many of the times it does not matter what those two letters mean or what the word which contains those two letters mean. But that is not the case with, again, samasa. It is, it always depends heavily on the meaning of those two words. Tredha, varna jatim lakshitva. Now there are three types of sandhis depending on the category, the species of the varna. It could be swara, vyanjana, or the visarga. And there are four types of samasas depending on the importance of meaning given to those two words. That is called the pradhanya. And sandhi is not a vritti. What is a vritti? These are pratyayas, or these are tools that are used to form new words. And sandhi is not explicitly used to form new words, but when you are forming new words, it helps you to correct the changes that happen within those two varnas that happen. So it's like a compartment in a train. When there are two compartments coming together, you need to lash them and you need to yoke them. And to yoke them is the sandhi, but the two compartments itself will be the samasa. So those are the vritti. Now samasa is a vritti, which means it is a tool to create larger and larger words explicitly. So this is what a sandhi is. Now we have seen sandhi is categorized into three words: swara, vyanjana, and the visarga, depending on what they are. In the next class, we shall begin with the swara sandhis and discuss them in detail. Dhanyavadaha.